want to jerk people around. So that means we just have to think through flow. So when we're choosing songs on a Saturday, we want to make sure that we're keeping in mind, how are these going to work together? What are some possible ways these could flow together? Think through the transitions. Some songs you can flow one to another, and it really helps to maintain a consistency and to build in momentum. You know, because when you jerk, essentially what you're doing is you're losing momentum. So it's not just you've created a hiccup for where you're going, you've lost what you've gained up to that point. So we want to think through the transitions, what songs can flow together, how can we do this, or can there be a fast song that we can turn into a slow song? You know, there are all sorts of ways. Sometimes it's going from a slow song to a fast song. But if you're starting where you're stopping and then moving, it helps a lot. So start where you stopped and keep moving, okay? So no spiritual whiplash. And that's not just, I mean, that's thematically somewhat too, you know, but I hate it when it's on my, you know, when you're listening to music, you're trying to have some quiet time with the Lord, and you put in a CD that you love, and it's like as soon as your heart settles, and it's like, you know, like a song comes on, and you know, the guitars and sorry Phil, love you, but the guitars and the, you know, the drums, and you're like, all of a sudden, all that time it took you to quiet down, you're no longer quiet. So, and that's why the Lord put it in my heart to do a soaking CD, because I was frustrated because I couldn't find them very many places, of just a CD that I could put in and just let myself come into a place of rest and stay there and not get jerked and the whole whiplash thing. Okay, watch our lull time in between songs. Now, when I go to other places, I don't necessarily have the advantage of having seen them lead worship beforehand. They'll do a couple songs for me that day so I can kind of assess where they're at. But as far as leading in a service, I haven't seen them. So there's a unique situation here, but we want to watch our lull time, which is the time between our songs. Because it almost, sometimes I think it feels like it's like double Dutch jump rope. You know, remember you'd see them rocking, and then, you know, they decide when it's okay to go in. I kind of feel like sometimes in between our songs, it's like our double Dutch jump rope. And we're watching for the entry point, and if you miss it, you gotta wait for it to come around, and you're 1, 2, you know, and you start to think about the entry, and you lose sight of where are we in general. So there's some ways I think that we can do this. One of the reasons that I've finally realized, one of the things that's hard for me to lead up here is I'm used to leading with the piano. So that becomes a double means of leading. Because if no one else in the band comes, I know one person in the band will always come with me. So there's kind of a comfort that I've learned in that, and just, you know, it also buys me time, you know, to just, we're just gonna just wait and let him navigate us, and, you know, and we can just kind of continue, and then when I feel like, okay, all right, that's where we're going, and then I can start in. But, so that's one thing, but you know what, it's good because it helps me to push me outside of my comfort zone, because the musicians here are trustworthy. So we've got, even the ones that are just learning, they're trustworthy. So that is a great gift to us. So we want to avoid the lull time. And one of the things that we can do to help with that is anticipate, but don't presume. So you have to kind of be thinking, okay, where might we be going? There's somewhere that we're going. We're not just closing out a song. We're entering into something else. And when we think too much about the closing, we forget about the entering, and then that's when we lose momentum. So anticipate, that comes with the musicians. Give the worship leaders something to work with in the meantime, because they're trying to get a sense, the musicians are trying to get a sense, and sometimes you need to buy yourself a little extra time. So play through. You know, maybe it's not, you know, the whole song again, because then it becomes the, you know, and you're waiting till an entry point. It might be like, you know, just a tagline or a last line repeated of a song, of the next song, that they can recognize, the worship leaders can recognize and grab it quickly and come in, so that we're not watching the rope go round and round and feeling, okay, I know we have all felt the awkwardness of this moment, you know, and you're like, okay, what do I say? What do I say? Oh, magnify the Lord with me. You know, we've all felt it, you know, and you're like throwing in something just to fill the moment, or, you know, you're just like, well, I'll say a line or the title of the next song so that, you know, to cue the band. So, you know, it might even be something that, a signal that we need to develop as a team that will communicate to the band, hey, we're moving to the next song, so that we don't have to say the name of the next song. Or, you know, it can be something that happens, you know, on the down low up here. So whether, like, for when I'm changing a song, when I'm leading, I'll go like this, like change a song. And then the band knows something else is happening. And it just kind of, you know, can perk their ear to transition is coming. So, you know, we might want to try that a little bit. So even if the musicians are playing through a little bit, so that we're not doing a double Dutch thing, just the worship leader, if you want to move to the next song on the list, because lists are helpful, there's context, there's nothing wrong with lists. Preparation, it makes room for the spontaneous. Preparation paves that way. So preparation is not evil or unspiritual. You know, maybe there's something that if it's the song we want to go to on the like that's next on the list, we can just do a signal, and that cues them, okay, we're transitioning. And hopefully we'll cut down some of that lull time, because again, if it's not a spiritual kind of space that we're in, you know, sometimes we need to linger. We need to stay in a spot because God's doing something. And when he's doing something, don't move on. That's one of those windows. Stay. When the glory comes, stay. Don't leave. Don't rush out, you know. I was at a church in February that he just shows up sometimes in the most unlikely ways. And we actually started into worship, and then it ended up being a laboratory for what I was about to speak. It was fun. So I'm like, yeah, Holy Spirit. Because then I knew at least I had the word for that morning. But we just stayed there, and God was working, and he was doing things. And I was playing for a lot of that time, and we weren't even singing. And I was feeling a little antsy on the inside, like, well, maybe we should move on. And he's like, Stephanie, this is where you want to get to. Why do you want to rush out of it? Hang out here. You'll know when it's time to transition. So thank God, he's the best coach ever, ever, ever. So on-the-job training all the time. But, you know, so when those moments come to linger, let's linger. Don't rush through. But if, you know, not between every song is a spiritual moment. So when it's not, let's not treat it like one. And just, okay, let's transition. You know, or do something, and we can maybe even decide that as a team, if you guys are open and willing to do that today. If we're changing keys, and sometimes that's a challenge, because we need to get to the new key, or else the next song will be disastrous. So, but you know, when you change a key, it kind of breaks the sound. You know, if you're just trying to sing through it, you got to stop singing through it if you're going to change keys. So you know, there's wonderful sensitivity in this place. So just be sensitive until the moment, if it's a moment. If it's not, don't wait for it. But if it's a moment, wait for the moment to calm, and kind of, he wraps things up. You know, he's the author and the finisher. He's the Alpha and Omega. He bookends. So it's the same with these spiritual moments. He starts them, and then he kind of wraps them. And you can sense when something lifts or closes. I don't know what word you would use to describe that kind of moment, but you sense when, okay, we can move on now. And so wait till the moment has calmed, but not necessarily come to a complete halt, you know, unless the Holy Spirit's causing for just stillness, you know.